Remember how big of a deal it was when former FBI Director James Comey got indicted? Well, now a criminal case against Comey could be on the verge of falling apart because of a bunch of mistakes that may have been committed by the president's handpicked prosecutor to oversee the case, with the federal judge today calling the government's actions a disturbing pattern of profound investigative missteps and saying they raise genuine issues of misconduct. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Marris. Misty, great to see you. So what kind of missteps and mistakes are we talking here? Are these like in the legal technicality realm, or are these like gravely flawed from jump?
So, Gotti, these go a step further than a legal technicality, and that's why you see such a scathing order from the magistrate judge in this case. The types of things that are laid out in this court order are what the judge calls extreme misstatement of law that could have tainted the whole grand jury process. He flagged issues with warrants that were executed, whether or not the evidence that was collected was actually in the scope, attorney-client privilege issues, issues regarding the timeline of the grand jury minutes and whether or not the government had actually turned over everything from that proceeding. So we're talking about significant issues. It's really difficult for a defendant to get access to this grand jury material because there's what's called a presumption in favor of the prosecution. So here, because the judge is saying there might be recklessness or misconduct, you have to turn this over. So this is very significant.
We saw that the judge ordered the government here to hand over all material to Comey's legal team by the end of the day, something that the Trump administration has been arguing against. Is that going to happen here? What can we see next?
So the Trump administration actually asked for a stay of the court order, and it was granted, Gotti, not long before this program began. The district court judge stepped in and said that the prosecutors, the U.S. attorneys, will have the opportunity to lay out their objections to turning over this material, and then Comey's team will have an opportunity to respond. That's all going to take place this week. But keep in mind, there's another hearing this Wednesday relating to Comey's motion to dismiss this case for vindictive prosecution. So, Gotti, the defects that have been flagged by the judge and will obviously be pursued by the defense, it's not the only avenue that Comey is working through to try and get this thrown out before it ever sees a courtroom.
And speaking of avenues, I mean, I hate to ask this, but in the long run, it does feel as though we're entering an era of, like, I need to talk to your supervisor judge. Could this, I mean, you've got a court of appeals, you've got the Supreme Court, like, could this go all the way to the Supreme Court eventually? Even, I mean, we're talking about this even before it goes to court, but in this day and age, like, that's got to be part of the equation, right?
So there are certain issues that could be novel enough to make their way to the Supreme Court. If this were to result in a trial and a conviction, you would certainly see an appellate attack on the case. We're a million miles away from that right now, but Gotti, to your point, with some of these issues that are what the judge had called in his order uncharted territory, to the extent that that continues, you could absolutely see something making its way up the chain.
Uncharted territory, the word of the year. Thank you so much, Misty Marris.